You're listening to the Convene Connections podcast with your host, Matthew Curry.
And good evening, everybody. How you doing tonight? It's a good night. We're here with Jodi Watkins. And how are you doing tonight, Jodi?
Doing well.
Good.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm so glad that you could join me tonight. I really appreciate it. So I'm returning it the favor. I was on your podcast before. Now you're coming over and you're going to be on my podcast. So I really truly appreciate it. And really what we're going to be talking about tonight is what we're getting ready for the Convene Wellness Summit that's coming up here in just a couple of weeks. And you're one of our speakers. So that's awesome. So how about what we do is just right off the bat, let's just talk a little bit about you and, what you do and give everybody the background of who you are.
Oh, goodness. We only have an hour right now.
That's a deep question. I loaded that one up for you.
All right. Well, hey, everyone. First of all, my name is Jodi Watkins. I was born and raised in a small town, used to be a small town called Fernandina Beach, Florida, right north of Jacksonville, Florida. I grew up there. I moved when I was 18 down to Gainesville. Went to college, got really broke, ended up back in Jacksonville, Florida. and then I ended up in the military. So, a lot of things happened. There were some details I left out in that, but
yeah,
that was the gist of it. 13, well, I did a total of 15 years, but some was reserves, 13 it was almost 14 active duty. But
14 active duty.
During that time, I always was in health and wellness. Like when I was in college, I played basketball, and I was actually going to school for sports and exercise science. I studied under an athletic trainer, and I was trying to learn new things. I didn't really lift weights up to that point. So when I got to college, they wanted me to gain weight.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to gain muscle. So, back then I thought eating off the Wendy's dollar menu and working out was going to help. And it did. I mean, I gained weight.
That's right. But maybe not in the right way, not the way you wanted to.
Let's say I had pretty good genetics back then. And we played basketball about 5 hours a day. So it didn't really pack on very well. But what I learned later on in life is, I couldn't eat like that anymore. And after I had our daughter, I was 32 at that time, and the weight just was not coming back off very well. And I started, I went back into exercise. By that time, I had a couple knee surgeries and a couple shoulder surgeries, and I was pending another knee surgery. And so, I was kind of limited on what I could do. But I did what I could.
Yeah.
But, I still wasn't really getting the results that I wanted to get. And I ended up, going into nutrition at that point. And that's when kind of things started happening. And at that time, there was a lot of disease in my family. My mom passed away when I was pregnant with our daughter. I was 7 months pregnant. She passed away. And she had dealt with just a ton of things. Bipolar. She was HIV positive. She had multiple sclerosis. There was just so much going on. They weren't really taking that great of care with her. It was just government run medicine, so I kind of got involved, and that's when I really developed a passion for healthcare and just learning about how medications mixed with each other. And then nutrition was playing a big role in it as well. So with her, I was trying to get more protein in her, things like that. So it's crazy because, even just back then, and that was 2008, 2009, when I was kind of learning that stuff. And then it wasn't until 2013 that I actually got the nutrition certification and started taking nutrition courses. Up to that point, I had gone to physician assistant school, did a little bit of that, didn't make it through the program. So that was one of those, put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. That's all right. That's okay.
But I learned a lot.
There's a story behind this. So when you're talking through this, there's a story behind all this.
Right. And I learned a lot through that. I mean, even though I didn't make it through the program, I gained a lot of knowledge. And then later on, I took some more courses. I was trying to go to nursing school, but Jodi's plan wasn't God's plan. So Jodi thought she knew what she was supposed to be doing, right? So, okay, PA school didn't work out. Let me try nursing school. But I got deployed and I wasn't able to take nutrition of all things at that time. And, so I wasn't able to make it into nursing school. And then I ended up, I finally just put in with the Air Force, you can put in what's called a Palace Chase. So I did that and I went reserves and they actually had medical lab tech open. And so I said, well, all right, they had it open at the base that we were already at. So I went ahead and went the reserve route at 13 years, 7 months, 8 months. But I did end up going through tech school. But during that time, while I was waiting to go through tech school, I actually got my personal trainer certification. I had been teaching classes, group classes up to that point, because I was limited. By that time, I had 3 knee surgeries.
Yeah.
So I was a little more limited of what I could do. But I started teaching Zumba and I started teaching circuit classes, and then I was learning the nutrition. And then finally I said, you know what, I really want to learn how to work with people individually and learn more about, just how to work out properly, because, learned how to work out, but I wanted to learn, I wanted to make sure I wasn't injuring myself more. And because I had so many injuries up to that point, I wanted to make sure that I was taking good care of myself. And it allowed me to learn something that now helps me help other people. And, I work with people that have arthritis. I work with people that have had back surgery. I've worked with people that have had knee surgeries. And everything's allowed me to kind of work with them. I work with their physical therapist. I work with their doctor, and just, kind of help them through their recovery. But I use nutrition a lot now too.
Yeah.
So that's the key. So without the nutrition, I hate to say it, but you're not going to make it.
If you're going through the Wendy's drive-through, getting the $1, yes, that's my problem. $1 tacos at Taco Bell.
When you're a broke college student, that's sometimes that's all you can do. But back then, I wasn't thinking about what I was doing to my body internally. I was just like, well, I look fine on the outside. And I see that a lot with people. Even my daughter is like that. She and I kind of battle every now and then. I'm like, you know what I do for a living. You make it so hard for me. Yeah, so I do whatever I can to sneak things in with her.
Absolutely. Get the broccoli in and get all the good stuff in and make sure that she's eating her vegetables.
I make shakes and she'll eat corn and she'll eat green peas and she eats fruit, and we don't keep a lot of junk in the house, and I found a really good omega-3 that she loves. So she takes that now. So that's good for joint health. For people that don't know, joint health, especially when you have kids and they're growing, that's really good for them. So she loves that. So she takes her tablespoon of that, and anything I can do to
help. Yeah, that's right. So let's jump back just a little bit in history. And you talked about your mom and all that, because I found this when we've talked before, that it was a bit interesting what got you so passionate about that. And I think it's a testament to what you were doing for your mom. And you really jumped into it.
It was kind of a dark period at first. I kind of blamed myself for a little bit because when she did pass away, I wasn't there. Like I didn't, I actually had to go back. We were living in Georgia at the time, because my mom got really sick, when she found out she was HIV positive, her doctor wrote a letter to the Air Force, and the Air Force sent myself and then my new husband, because we just got married. They sent us to the closest base to Jacksonville, Florida, which is where my mom was living. And that happened to be Valdosta, Georgia, which was a 2-hour drive. Mm-hmm. And so we got back, and, there was just so much craziness. I was working a night shift when we got back, and driving to Jacksonville just about every other day, 2 hours here and then 2 hours back, taking a nap at a rest stop, and then going to work that night. And, and it was rough, but mm-hmm. I did it because, like I said, she had so much going on, and she was seeing so many different doctors, and she would have one main doctor, but then, if that doctor couldn't see her, she had to go see somebody else.
Yeah.
just prescribe her with something else. And what I started learning is a lot of those medications, especially when she would get like the generic kind because she was on Medicaid and that's all they covered, they actually did not mesh very well at all.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had to dig in. I took a pharmacology class to learn about medication and how they kind of intertwine and stuff like that. And so I actually formulated a list at that point of her medication. So every time she would go to the doctor, she had that list with her.
Yeah.
And then I would go through her cabinets and she had medication in there that was expired and stuff like that. So I would just go through and just start tossing stuff. But yeah, so when she passed in 2009, yeah, I kind of blamed myself for a little while. And, I was kind of in that, for anybody that's ever endured kind of a little bit of a tragedy or a loss of a loved one or something like that, you kind of just, well, for me, I went into like this, okay, I got to get it done mode, because I had to move everything out of her apartment and just get everything done. And I was 7 months pregnant. Luckily I had my husband, he was helping out. But so I was just doing everything that I had to do. She had student loans. I was taking care of that. We had to get the cremation done and luckily my uncle was helping with that because she didn't have life insurance at that time. We started a policy and unfortunately it didn't kick in. They sent me a $5 check. I was like, thanks guys.
That's not what you want. Yeah.
Not quite. So luckily my uncle helped me with, the cremation and stuff like that. And so I kind of just, did what I had to do. And, I was taking finals at that time. So I just was operating. I was at work. Yeah. I was doing what I had to do and I just operated. And then one day it was probably 3 weeks after I just lost it. Yeah. And it came out of the blue. And, so it was kind of that period of just, this is crazy because it was so much work trying to take care of her and go back and forth after she was gone. It was like, what do I do with myself now? And, and then we had our daughter a couple months, about 3 months later, the end of December. So then I found out really quickly what I could do with myself. Yeah,
that's right.
But it was a difficult moment because that would have been her first grandchild. So, and she never got to meet her. And, I didn't have, I didn't have my mom there holding my hand and, like that. So it was a little bit of a rough period, but after that, after I kind of got over that and then I deployed again and I came back and then it was just kind of like this spark got ignited and I refused. I started thinking about my grandmother had Alzheimer's. My aunt, she passed away. My favorite aunt, she had passed away from Alzheimer's. She was the healthiest one in the family.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what in the world is going on? So I really just started diving into, okay, my mom had multiple sclerosis. How does all this dementia fit together? Because they didn't, at that point, they hadn't linked multiple sclerosis with Alzheimer's. But when I started researching things, I was like, well, it's amazing how they kind of did have similarities, like dementia, right? So it's all dementia. So it has a lot of similarities. So it was really interesting. And then learning how nutrition can play a huge part.
Huge role in it. Yeah. Huge role.
And making sure that, we keep our brains developing and stuff like that. And then another thing that my uncle and I talked about is just never stopping, like feeding our brains.
Yeah.
Because, when you get complacent and you're just there, that's when our brains just stop too.
Absolutely.
And so I think that was another thing. I was just like, I'm never going to stop thinking.
Well, the reason why I ask you that is because in our past conversations, our past talks, that was a huge driving force into everything that you've done and all the learning that you've done. You really started at that point in time when your mother, passed away, this journey to become an expert in nutrition, to become, the person that you are and the teacher that you are, because, and we'll get into the training and the stuff that you do right now, but I think it's pretty impressive because, we'll talk about the holistic look that you take into nutrition and into wellness and all that. And I think that's incredibly important. So let's kind of jump into that. You don't just go to the gym and teach people how to lift weights and start back when you first started training, because there's a journey here, obviously, when you first started doing that. Yeah. When you first started teaching and, or, you know, being
I'll tell you, I was actually telling my client this, because she's a really good friend of mine, so we talk a lot too. But I told her, I said, you know, it's funny. I thought back to when I first started doing my personal training sessions, and it was actually with a couple of the ladies that worked at the child development center where my daughter was. Because at that time, when my husband wasn't there, or if he was at work, I was very limited on, you know, I had our daughter. So I was kind of limited on when I could train people, where I could train people and stuff like that. So I actually had a TRX that I had acquired. Thank you, Marine, the Marines gave me a TRX back on one of my deployments. So thank you, Marines, for that.
Exactly.
But that was my training equipment. You know, I learned how to give people a full body workout. We would go to the park. And, you know, I had moms, and so I was a mom, they were a mom, and we would take the kids to the park, and I would put that TRX up on the thing, and I would just teach them, you know, some of the movements. And that's really how I started. And I wasn't even charging anything at that point because I didn't feel confident enough. Like, I was just like, I'm just learning this stuff. I don't, but that's really how it started. And then finally I got contracted at the gym on base. And at that point I had just went into the reserves. So that was another, when I was active duty, you know, I wasn't able to train people just whenever. It was like, it was hours of the day, you know, if I got off work, and like I said, we just took the kids to the park, and that's how we did it. But and that's actually why I became a Zumba instructor, because they didn't have a class that was at the time that I could go. So I said, well, I guess I'm just going to become an instructor, and then I'll just teach a 5:30 a.m. class before I go to work. And that's
dedication right there, Stezo. Come on. Would you do that?
I've always been one of those people. I mean, I can think back, because people are like, oh, you were in the military, that's why you're this. I'm like, you know, I look back at my life, and I've always been just one of those people that was like, you know what, this isn't working, I'm going to do this. And I just always have been like that. I've worked really hard. If it was something I was passionate about, I went all in, you know, and that's just the type of person I've always been. Sometimes it's fault. I'm not even gonna lie. But, you know, I've learned a lot from that. But, you know, but that's how it all started. It's like, I just started taking people to the park. And then, like I said, I got contracted on base. So that's when things kind of got real, because then I was like, oh, I'm getting paid for training sessions. Okay. But my first client was actually a really good friend of mine. She was my hairstylist too. So she was, you know, she would do our daughter's hair while I was gone, if I was deployed and stuff like that. She was a really good friend. But that was my first client. And then I had another client that was in my Zumba class, and she's actually doing amazing now. She's a yoga instructor, and she's older. She's a little bit older or whatever. But, you know, and it just became a passion. Like, people would tell me, like, you just treat people differently. Like, you actually care. Like, you know, it was.
Yeah. So,
like, I would really care. Like, I was doing research. I yearned for that knowledge, and I wanted to be the best person that I could be to help them be better.
Yeah.
So,
what's amazing. And so you can go to your website. What's your website?
www.2beepicfn. So I used to always tell people, I'm gonna go ahead and throw that little story in, because people are like, what the heck? When I was in Japan, and that's a whole nother story, but we'll probably touch on that later. But when we were stationed in Japan, I used to always tell people, be epic. Like, I used to always say that, just be epic. And so I was like, when I went to go form the company, I was like, well, let me try be epic. And that was already taken. So that couldn't happen. And so I was in the shower one night, and I'm just going to be transparent. That's where I do a lot of my thinking. And I was like, wow, what if I put a 2 in front of it, and then make the E part of the BE and the epic part? And so in my mind, this worked, right? So and then I said, well, I don't want people to think it's just workouts, because it's not just workouts. Like, I did
it's not just workout. Yep.
Right. So, I mean, by that point, I was actually coaching with just nutrition. So I was like, well, it's not just going to be fitness. So I put fitness and nutrition, and it's super long and some people can't pronounce it, but whatever. Like my daughter believes in it. I believe in it. The logo is actually a silhouette of me. My husband made it. So I was like, you just gotta, it's like I told somebody the other day, I said, it doesn't matter what other people think. If you believe in it, other people are going to believe in it. So
yeah, absolutely. No.
But yeah, it's www.tobeepicfn.com. So
yeah. And so right when you go on there, I'm going to just go ahead and tell you, if you go on Jodi's website, there is a picture of there that you're in shape. You can definitely you can tell that, you'll take Stezo, she'll take it to us, right? And she could, there's not a doubt. There's not a doubt, but it's great because, when you go in there and you're like, okay, well, that's who I need to be, training me, because you're fit. And, but it's so much more than just, now that I've gotten to know you, I mean, it's impressive to go on and just see how, fit you are. But there's, like I said, there's so much more to your story and so much more to how you train people and what you bring to the table. So let's kind of get into that.
Well, it's crazy when we left Japan and I moved back to Jacksonville and I was like, maybe I just need to go get a job at a gym again because nobody knew who I was here anymore. I hadn't lived here in 20 years. I was a new face in the crowd and I'm amongst 50 million personal trainers. Like, what makes me different?
Yeah.
So I actually did. And I worked at a gym for a couple of weeks and it felt so, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
The training sessions, I had to do them a certain way. They were 30 minutes. I spent half the time trying to find out if they had injuries, how their nutrition was, whatever it was. I never knew who I was going to be working with. And it lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I said, this is not for me. And it was a huge journey after that of trying to figure out, well, how do I fit in? How am I different? I took marketing classes trying to figure this out. Business coaches, like, what makes me different? I don't know. I'm just different. That's what I don't know. I'm just different. Like I care, like, but it was a huge journey, but now I'm finally seeing like, there's a reason why, because even before COVID happened, I was actually gonna go interview for a head personal trainer position at one of the gyms here in Jacksonville, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And then my health coaching program started picking up.
See, there's a question out there for you. And the question is, how has COVID-19 impacted your business and interactions?
Oh my goodness. All I can say is, but God, like I would never have imagined what could have come out of this. And I tell you the difference and I've done podcasts on this and I've actually written a couple blogs on this. And, it's our mindset. By that time, gratefully, thankfully, I had a pretty good grasp on things and I'm very resilient. Like, I can't control everything else in the world. Right. But the one thing I can control is how I react. Yeah. Right. So when COVID happened, it was like, okay, I'm seeing this stuff happen. And then I have a lab tech background too. So I knew some things weren't quite as bad as they were making it out to be. And like I said, I'm a researcher. So I was researching. I stayed away from the news because they weren't talking about anything good. So I researched and I was doing my own, own research and just trying to figure it out or whatever. But yeah, like it was crazy because, the book got published and then I was like, wow, I wasn't even able to do the book signings or anything like that. And I had that little tiny negative thought, but I quickly pushed that out because it was like, yeah, but I got a book, right? Like, and so, we tell ourselves these things and it's these stories that we generate in our head. It's like, I could have easily been like, oh, this sucks. And I do feel bad for some of the in-person personal trainers, right? Because luckily my main business was already virtual, right? So I already coach people from wherever they are. I mean, I have like maybe 2 clients here in Jacksonville, but everybody else is all over the place.
So that's actually key, because you didn't have to make much of a pivot where everybody else is pivoting. Everybody, you know, if you're, you know, a lot of gyms, they're trying to figure out now, how do I do this online? A lot of gyms are trying to figure out, you know, things to be successful, but you're already there.
Yeah.
Right. And now you're able to probably expand your reach and people who are out
and
there
I
searching.
actually started helping other personal trainers. Like I started mentoring other personal trainers, you know, because I'm in a female personal trainer group, Facebook group. And, you know, that's exactly what was going on. It was just like, oh my God, what do I do now? So I actually started just collecting some of the names, and then I sent out like a message, and I'm like, hey, this is who I am. Go check out my website. And I was like, you know, I'm doing online coaching if you would like to learn anything. So I actually had like a few people. I didn't charge anything. It was just, I had a Facebook group for a little bit, but then it got a little time consuming because then my business started picking up.
Yeah, exactly.
So then I had to, you know, I kind of let them know like, hey, I'm still here if you need anything, but I'm going to have to stop. You know, I have to allot my time, you know, better. Like I coach people on time management. So, you know, I had to listen to my own coaching on that and just do what was going to be valuable. But yeah, it actually, everything just picked up. There's so many work from home opportunities out there that we don't even know about. Like I had a couple other things got brought to me, and I kind of started one of those on the side just because I believed in it. And so another thing was just, I tell people all the time, like I used to, you know, when I talked about PA school, I used to put my eggs all in one basket, because when I had my eye on something, I was all in. But now I've learned through some of the doors that have shut that it's always better to have more than one thing going.
No doubt about it. I think it's very important. Like we talked about this. This has been in all the summits that we've done. It's been a very, well, except for the 108 John, but for the Entrepreneurs Unite, for the Christians Unite, it's been a big topic of you should always have multiple streams of income, or always be thinking about that. You know, if your exit, and that's one of the things that happen, you know, there's 30 plus million people all of a sudden out of a job. Well, a lot of these people at 30 plus million, that was their job. That's what they focused on. And now, boom, it's gone. And so their income is gone. And so, yeah, you got to think multiple ways and multiple things, you know, ways to make it. Let's talk about this. Like, so let's kind of jump on this holistic approach that you take. Because you don't, like I said, you don't just focus on one area of lifting weights or, you know, cardio or whatever. So you take a holistic approach. And when I mean holistic, it's a holistic, that's one of the main ways that your business jumped, right? When you people started figuring out who Jodi was.
Yeah. And honestly, it's crazy because the way that my business really picked up was I had got into bodybuilding. Before we got to Japan, actually, while I was going through lab tech school, that was just something I was like, I don't know. It just kind of came out of nowhere. But, you know, I was like, I don't know if I can do that because, you know, I have all these injuries but I was learning stuff. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to try it, you know. So I did my first show in 2015. But I had a coach, and he didn't really know a lot about nutrition. Bless his heart, but I knew more than he did. But, you know, I didn't know enough about bodybuilding. So I was doing what he was telling me to do. But then after the show, I rebounded. And when I say rebound, that's when competitors gain a ton of weight back. So I gained like 20 pounds back right after the show. And I wasn't eating bad. I didn't know that there was like a strategic way to build back up, you know? So I just kind of started eating what I normally ate. And you know, and I was older. I was like 36 at that time. So my mental was going a little bit slower. And so that was kind of how that started. And then when we got to Japan.
So you got Japan. And
so we went to Japan. They had bodybuilding competitions out there on the Marine base. So I actually found out about that. So I took some time and really studied and researched a little bit more and stuff like that. And so in 2016, I actually competed in 2 different shows. And I did it without the actual quote unquote diet. So I call it bro science, because that's what I did my first show. It was that bro thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and then after that, I didn't rebound because I had learned how to do everything. But because I did those shows and then I was a personal trainer, my name got around so fast.
Yeah.
You know, and so people were coming to me. And then when they found out that I did nutrition, then it was like, wait, so you could get yourself to look like that? Like, I need to hang out with you.
Yeah. And again, your website's posted here. So if you want to know what she's talking, go. It's on the picture right on the front. You'll see that she's cut. You know, so Jodi's really cut. So go ahead, keep talking.
Well, that's the old picture. Now I'm just trying to maintain.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's right.
But yeah, so, you know, I did those shows and I actually did one in 2017. And then the end of 2017, I actually blew my good knee out.
Yeah.
It wasn't by weightlifting, which was the crazy part. It was actually just all of a sudden out of nowhere, it just swelled up really bad. We were on a trip to Bali and I couldn't walk one morning. It was like the day, I think it was Christmas Day, and I woke up and my knee was so swollen. I was like, what is going on?
But now you're sounding like a broken person like me now. So now you're catching up to me with all my injuries.
Well, you know, and so that's what I tell people now. Like when I go to the gym and people see me lift, that is actually way less weight than I used to be able to lift. And I've learned how to do it correctly.
So yeah.
It's hurting. I'm not going to lift heavy with my shoulders. I'm just not. But, you know, and people they just see what they see. They don't realize like, hey, I got an 80% disability check coming in every month. Like I have two places in my spine that has degeneration. I posted on Instagram about that this morning because when I squat, if I do barbell squats, I have resistance bands on the barbell because it takes that pressure off my spine. So there's really just those things that I've learned along the way and picked up from other people too, like other people who were going through similar things that that they had some more experience than I did. So that's another thing I tell people: always be coachable. You're never going to know everything. You're never.
Absolutely.
And if you think that you do, that's not a good thing because then you're never going to learn anything else. So me, you know, I've always tried to be around people that I could learn from. So even with, you know, personal training and stuff like that, like, you know, I've learned a lot from people who were already injured and they had been lifting for a long time. So they've taught me things too. So that's one of the things that I learned is with the resistance bands. So that's what I tell people, like, I have a lot of injuries. You know, I have arthritis pretty much everywhere. When I get up in the morning, I'm in pain but if I stay still, I'm in more pain. So that's you know, I don't get hurt when I'm lifting weights because I've learned how to do it properly. And I use nutrition to make sure that I'm fueling my body correctly. So I don't get hurt those times. Usually when I get injured, it's from either something sporadic, like, I don't know, moving something or, you know, or it's past injuries. So when I blew my good knee out, well, I say blew it out, but you know, it's okay. But it swelled up and I went to the doctor. I actually they had a sports medicine doctor where we were in Okinawa that I went to. And he told me, he was like, you know, you're doing everything correctly as far as like the eating and everything.
Yeah, no, I get that. So
you had 3 knee surgeries on your right knee. So you were probably, you know, when I was in the military and still having to run, I was probably overcompensating a lot.
Absolutely.
So here it is 10 years later. And, you know, it just took a little bit of something happening. And then my good knee kind of went, I don't have any more in me.
So if you're giving advice, if you're talking about nutrition, right? So what are the problems that you see out there? What, you know, if you're giving me and Stezo advice here, what do we need to think about besides, you know, not going through the $1 meal at Wendy's or Taco Bell?
So I'll say the biggest thing that I love to help people do, and it's one of the hardest things for people to want to do, and that's why I kind of throw in that time management thing, because we make time for what we want to do, right? We, you know, if something comes up and I want to do that, I'm going to make time for it. So what I tell people is I'm like, you know, download an app. Like I use MyFitnessPal. It's a really good food diary app. Their database is so huge. Like I used to scan stuff at the Japanese grocery store and it would come up. I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, that's what I'm eating. Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll tell people like download that. So my clients who do nutrition, that's actually what they have to do. They download that app and they start tracking their foods. And it's such an eye opener that a lot of times my job becomes easier after that because now they're already seeing where they're going wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it allows people to kind of think about what they're going to eat before they go. I tell people, like, you don't have to diet. I don't want people dieting. I don't want them to feel like they're restricted. It's just acknowledging, some weaknesses or some, foods that maybe people overindulge on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just learning about
You're learning about what
label on the back of the food and stuff.
Yeah, learning about what can help you, what you should be eating, not, watching the sugars, right?
Right.
Watching
natural sugars, your body can digest a certain amount of those, but it's really the high fructose corn syrups and the sugars that are man-made, like that's the kind of stuff that can really mess people up. So I tell people, I'm like, I used to have a sweet tooth too. So when people come to me and they're like, I have this huge sweet tooth, and I'm like, yeah, I used to too. And I'm like, well, there's, we have all this technology these days. I'm like, go on Pinterest and there's so many things that you can find on there, like healthier recipes for foods that you love. So that's what I did when I was, when I was learning how to eat healthier. It was like, well, what can I substitute? And so that's what I started doing.
Yeah.
And just learning how to substitute things. And then when I went through lab tech school, that's when I started learning more about cholesterol, like actually what is in the test,
The potato chip that we want to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, people would come in and you could always tell when somebody ate fast food and then came in to get their blood done. Like it was just crazy. And, I started thinking more about the internal aspect. So I hear people say all the time, like, well, I look healthy. Okay, yeah, but when was the last time you got your labs done? I remember there was a guy that came in, he was a Marine at that time, and he looked super healthy, just fit, and we did his labs and they were not good.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's like, you never know. And so that's people, when you do those bad diets, that's horrible for you because you don't know what you're doing inside.
One of the things that's really amazing to me is like some of the people that are extremely healthy, because I remember an old CO, he wasn't my CO, he was at the squadron before I was there, but just extremely healthy. And he's out running, he had gone on like a 5-mile run and, bam, just, drops dead in the run, And that's what you're talking about. You can look extremely healthy, but is your inside healthy? Is it not healthy? What's your cholesterol? What's your heart health? all those different things.
Yeah. Oh, important. Yeah. That's super important. And and I don't know if it's the same thing that what you're talking about, what happened with him, that was actually happening a lot in athletes, if you think back. And that's what they were finding. They were finding that, a lot of these athletes had, this genetic deficiency that never came up until they were, doing very strenuous exercising. And the problem with that is if you're not fueling your body. So I always tell people it's like putting gas in your car, right? Like if your gas gauge is broke, and I've had a car that the gas gauge was broke. So I know this. If the gas gauge is broke and, you're just guessing, right?
Yeah.
I ran out of gas one time, and because I thought that I had put enough gas, but I didn't know. And back then, I'm gonna keep telling, I was a broke college student, so I might have had $2.50 to put in the tank at that time.
There you go.
And that had to get somewhere, So I did run out of gas one time. So I think back to that, and I'm like, when I always say fuel your body, because that's exactly what you're doing. And I tell people, I do correlate it a lot to a car because that's what people can relate to mentally, right? So I'm like, okay, if your gas gauge is broke, how you don't know how far you can go, right? And then I'm like, well, what if you put regular unleaded in a diesel fuel truck, what happens?
That's not working. That's a bad thing.
Nutrition is the same thing, right? If
Yeah.
I don't know what my food is made of, I might think I'm eating healthy, but I don't really know. So
Yeah.
if I don't know, if I'm not, getting the vitamins that I need, if I'm not getting the fiber that I need, if I'm not, if I'm
Yeah.
making sure that I'm not getting a
Yeah. That makes total sense.
for you, it's just learning when to use them and how to use them, and
Yeah.
what type of carbs to eat and stuff like that. So it's not about restricting. Like I said, no restrictions. I just teach people how to make things healthier, and how to kind of learn how to track their food, so that way if they're curious about something, all they have to do is look it up, and
Yeah.
or read the label at the store. Like that's a big thing, and I tell people all the time too, like, make a grocery list before you go to the store,
Yeah.
because when you go to the store, you might be tempted to go down, one of those
Yeah.
aisles you don't need to go down.
And somebody
And
was just telling me the other day that they felt like their diet has been extremely better since COVID started because they've been ordering all their groceries in. So they don't have those impulse buys of going to the grocery store and getting this and grabbing the stuff that they don't really need. But hey, they're there, it's sitting right there, so it's in their face.
yeah,
So making those different decisions.
I've
So,
actually had a few people tell me that they've gotten healthier over this time, and and then I ended up picking up actually two personal training clients because it was like they still wanted to work out, and the gyms were closed, and it's like, oh, what do
yeah,
I do, and
yeah,
I don't operate out of fear, so I wasn't gonna be like, oh no, I'm not gonna help you because, oh my God,
yeah,
and I'm not saying anything about, so I hope nobody out there gets offensive or anything like that. But that's just how Jodi operates.
yeah.
Okay. I,
That's,
I choose who I'm around, and yeah, I'm still careful, but I do the same stuff that I've always done. I've always had hand sanitizer. I've always not coughed on people or sneezed on people, or, and I've always not gotten up in people's faces, and I've just always done that stuff. So
yeah,
this was no different to
yeah,
me. It was like, okay, well, we got through SARS and we got through H1N1 and we got through, like,
yeah.
now
We
we got
get to
another super strand. Okay, well,
let's work on it. Let's get through it. I agree with you totally.
so
Yeah, because if we can work on it, we can get through it, then we can move past it. So real quick, there's about 15 minutes left. If anybody's got any questions for Jodi, as we go through this last 15 minutes. So if you got some workout questions, I know some of you that are watching out there are extremely unhealthy. I can see some of your names, so you
wow.
better come with the question. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That was a joke, but it's true. I just noticed that a gentleman named Stan Cohen just started watching. He does some amazing things up in the Northeast where he teaches Tai Chi. I can't remember if that's what it is, but it's really pretty cool because
Yeah.
I can't exactly think, Stan. You can put it in the comment if you're still watching on what you teach, but he does it, in for some of the older people inside of some of the homes, like
Okay, that's awesome.
and it's great. And he teaches them balance, and he has them,
Yeah.
help work on their balances and all those different things. So that's really a pretty cool thing. I think that's
yeah. Like when my mom having MS, like we were doing Tai Chi. I took her a couple of times, because with multiple sclerosis, for anybody who's not familiar, that does take away, it's a debilitating disease and it takes away from your mobility. So yeah, her balance, she was falling and she lived by herself. So that was very scary for me. I didn't want her just falling everywhere she went and stuff like that. She had a walker. So I love that. So thank you to him, because, I know from experience that, he's helping those people tremendously. But that's when I work with people, I do a lot with core and balance and lower body, as far as I work people out in ways that they've never worked out. I touch muscles, I hit muscles that they've never used, because I've learned after my surgery, I learned this advice from them and my surgeon. and just learning that, you know, if we strengthen up the muscles around our knees, because we don't have muscles in our knees, but if we strengthen the muscles around our joints and around our knees, that's actually more beneficial. So that's something that I really started implementing in my own training. And I do a lot of core and just balance, because that is so important. And so with my clients, it's amazing. You know, I have clients where their balance is not so good. And so actually one of my clients, she has my extra Bosu ball, because I told her, I said, hey, I want you to do some exercises where you just stand on the Bosu ball. So the Bosu ball is like the flat ball that has like the moon on the yeah. So I just wanted her to stand and hold it each, because her ankles were really weak, and with her ankles being weak, it was messing her up for, like, you know, when we would do lunges and things like that. I was like, we need to strengthen up your ankles. So when you ask me about, you know, what makes me different, I'm very coherent. So when I have someone come to me, I immediately notice the little things that we need to work on.
Yeah. So I got a question for you.
Homework. Yeah.
So here's a question from this person named Braden Curran, happens to be my son, but he is but he's a former college soccer player, just got done playing last year. So this has been his first full year of college, outside of college from playing. But his question is, any tips for gaining weight, healthy weight? Yeah, because he is not, you know, he just sheds off the weight, you know, he can't gain weight.
I actually, oh my goodness, I hope that he can contact me, because I actually have someone that is competing. She's competing in September, and when she came to me, she was not eating enough. And so I've been able to help her build healthy muscle.
Yep.
But I have actually helped, there was a couple Marines that had that issue when I was in Okinawa, and I helped them. It was nutrition. It's all nutrition. It's learning about what, so I do a lot of calculations as far as when somebody comes to me, I find out how old they are, how much they weigh, what their goals are, all those things. I do a bunch of calculations that I've learned how to do, and I figure out how much they need to be eating. And then from that, I break it down even more to where, okay, you need this amount of protein, you need this amount of carbs, you need this amount of fats. And so that's how it kind of starts. And so I start coaching on that. When somebody wants to gain weight, it's difficult for them to learn it, but it is the only sustainable way that you can get results for any goal, is to learn what your body needs, work with somebody who's experienced, learn what your body needs, and then start eating those things that are going to help you. And so, like, I hope that you said he's listening. So reach out to me, reach out to my, you know, go on my website, hit me up on Facebook, whatever you need to do, reach out to me. 'Cause I love.
I'll definitely get him in touch with you, because I think he could really use help. My friend Ron Dupree, I used to play high school football with, just checked in. That's awesome.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I'll definitely get him in touch with you, because, you know, again, he's extremely active. He's still, you know, doing things, and not necessarily playing soccer anymore, but
enough. I guarantee, because, you know, and especially he's younger, his metabolism is probably through the roof. He is most likely not eating enough, and his body's just not able to hold on to what he is putting into it. So I would definitely love to give him some tips and things like that. But that's what I love to do. And that's, you know, when I was, like I said, when I was younger, when I was that age and I was playing basketball, and I had no idea that there was a strategy behind.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I would not have known either.
Okay. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a way to do it, and a healthy way to do it. I'm actually a specialist in supplements as well, and I'm with a very well-renowned company that has some very quality supplements. So I teach people about that too. For him, that would probably be something that would come into play. I don't push supplements or anything like that, but I do coach people and guide them and educate them. So
for him, you know, and again, we're talking about him, but as somebody like him with a high metabolism, who does, you know, still works out, it's probably hard for him to find the time to, eat properly. Well, I don't want to say he just needs to learn. So that's good. That's awesome. Any more questions? Keep them coming in here real quick. Now let's get back to this whole knee thing, because I've had 7 knee surgeries, believe it or not.
Oh my gosh,
I've had over 20 surgeries, 20, right? So I'm horrible.
Okay,
I am a disaster.
You're way ahead of me.
Oh yeah. So I have, but it's interesting that you were talking about your knees, but I just had hip surgery in November, but I found it interesting that after that hip surgery, I had some dry needling, and because my hip's still tight, messed up, but the dry needling was in my knee. That's where they were doing the dry needling. It wasn't in my hip. It was all the way down in my knee. The muscles were still just so tight based off the knee surgeries that I had.
Right.
That's what they were working on, which was interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
mobility is key. Like I teach people that too. That's one thing, even with me throughout the time that the gyms were closed, that's one thing that I kind of focus more on, is just kind of staying flexible and staying mobile, and it wasn't really, I kind of took some time off from the weights and things like that. And I'll go walk the dog and do some walking lunges and things, but I do my lunges differently because that takes pressure off my knees and my hip. I have a bad hip too, so I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. Stezo, do you have any problems? Do you have any health problems back there?
No, I'm healthy as an ox.
You're healthy as an ox.
I am.
Look at your labs.
I lost my mother to pancreatic cancer in 2001, and one thing I made a promise to myself ever since then was that I do get a yearly blood work done. Get all my things checked up. But I stay pretty active in my job. I kind of echo Matthew's son a little bit. I'm 46 years old, and I weigh the same that I've weighed when I graduated high school in 1992.
Wow.
I don't get hungry unless my body needs the energy. I was on 4 weeks of the shutdown, and I barely ate anything because I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that just because there's this thing called resting metabolic rate, and you actually need a certain amount of fuel, and fuel is calories. Okay, so I'll make it easy, but I say fuel. I like that word better. So you actually, even if you're resting, you need a certain amount of calories going into your body. So even people who aren't doing, like, even, for those of us who have had surgeries and stuff like that, we still, even if we're laid up, we still need a certain amount of fuel coming in. Right. And so a lot of that was stuff that I didn't know back then. But when I work with people now, that's actually one of the big things. Like, one of my clients, she got injured, and I said, all right, cool, we're going to focus on your nutrition. I mean, not cool that she got injured, but now we're going to focus on your nutrition a little bit more. And that's how I've always been able to maintain through injuries, is just knowing how to eat. That's the biggest part of it.
So we had Doc, who's a medical professional, because he's RN, plus he's also, a former doc in the Navy, but he said that Stezo actually needs a new liver is what he needs.
Oh, God.
Not much of a comment from the gallery there, but okay, that was funny.
My liver is the strongest organ in my body.
If his liver function test came out good, I guess he's all right.
Oh, that's so funny. That was good. All right, just a couple more minutes here with Jodi. So if you got any more questions, keep asking, or if you got me a question, keep asking me. But no, I think it's great. One of the things that I want to talk about real quick, because I think one of the things, and this is, we just had Christians Unite last week, but one of the things that you and I have talked about is your faith and how important that is to your training, and how kind of when you started bringing that into your training, it really helped your business, and it helped people open up to you. And so I think that this is great. Talk a little bit about that. I think that's pretty cool.
Oh man, tell everybody to go get the book, Reclaim Your Life. It tells you all about it.
Yeah. So do you have a copy of your book around you? But read. Yep. So this is Jodi's book that she's written.
It's got a picture of my daughter on the front. So, yeah.
So make sure you get a copy of that, Reclaim Your Life.
When I was going through my spiritual journey, this book shifted a lot. I started writing it before and it shifted a lot. But yes, oh my goodness, everything changed. And all it took was me changing. I had to stop control everything. Like I was just such a control freak. Like I had to control everything. And, that stemmed back to when I was younger. And then being in the military in a male dominated career field, I'm sure that had something to do with it too. It's like, I always felt like I had to prove myself. Right. So when I got out and I was training people, I still had that. I still had that feeling like I have to prove myself all the time. When I moved to Jacksonville, it's like, I have to prove myself everywhere I go. In all reality, like when I started, the spiritual journey, I couldn't control anything anymore. And I just dropped to my knees one day and I said, I can't do this anymore. If you're here, please take over. And that's kind of where that all started. But, it's crazy even now, like how, when I'm talking to people, my coaching, I have a 6-week program based off the book. And, we pray at the beginning of the coaching session, and I pray afterward. And I've never prayed like that. Like I even told the one that I'm working with right now, she and I just started, and I said, hey, don't judge me because I'm just starting, I'm new to this. I said, but, and so, after I prayed for her, and she was just like, wow, that was awesome. And I was just like, thanks. And I was like, no, thank you. Because those weren't Jodi's words, it's like, because what people don't know is I also prayed before the call. So, but just adding that in has just been huge because it's just something I never had. And since I added it in, it is just all the limitations that I placed on myself are just gone now. And I don't second guess myself anymore.
You told me that it opened people. You told me that it opened people up to you. They just, it just helped. Like they came to you and it was.
Tell me their whole life story now. But that's a good thing, and you build the trust. And I've always kind of had that because a lot of people opened up to me, even when I was in the military. People would. I guess I just had like that. I just built relationships really well, I guess. And so even the younger airmen, they would come to me and they would confide to me and stuff like that. But now it's like I'm doing like a program that. And I thought that I had to have like a sociology degree or, be a psychologist or something to counsel people. But I'm not counseling. All I'm doing is listening. And it's amazing how impactful just listening to people can be,
Yeah, absolutely. So, listen, so we're coming down to the end right here. We got just a couple of minutes. So tell people again, we already have your website posted. We have a link to your book posted. I love when authors send me a signed copy of their book, even if it's in draft. That's a wonderful thing. So hint, I have a stack of books. I just got this one the other day from one of the speakers that came and, look at this.
I actually wrote a story. There's another book that just came out recently. I'm going to go ahead and show this one too. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to show this one. This one's called If She Can, and I have a story in here too. So I actually have two.
Yeah. Awesome. So I love books like that, and that's incredible. So but tell people where they can find you. We already got your website, but where's some other places?
Everywhere. I'm everywhere. Look, you can find me on LinkedIn, Jodi Watkins. You can find me on Instagram. I actually have 2 Instagram accounts. One is just To Be Epic FN, and the other one is Jodi on a Mission. There's underscores in between the words on there. And then on Facebook, Jodi Watkins, I have a total health Facebook group where I put a lot of information out, and I do my weekly podcast in.
That's right.
And just everywhere. You can actually, I found out you can Google my name and find me too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. See, I like that too. I've Googled myself and I've been able to see it. But so listen, I can't wait for you to be a part of this wellness summit. I think we got 12 incredible speakers. It's an honor to have you on there. I've enjoyed becoming, good friends with you over the last month. You're just a wonderful person.
The honor is mine. You have no idea.
Yeah, no, it's just been wonderful. You're doing great things. You're helping people out. You're doing, like I said, it's just so much fun. We're going to have a great summit. I can't wait for you to get into Convene. You'll get into Convene by default through the summit because you'll have a group here in just a couple of days. And so we'll continue to, just continue to expand. And as we grow, hopefully help you grow. And this will be the first of many podcasts that we do.
Oh, yeah.
So Jodi,
yes,
thank you so much. And in the background, Tizo, thank you so much. And hey, we'll see y'all next Thursday night. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Bye, you guys.